I'm Allie, and I'm the manager of training programs at Manhattan Prep. We've been teaching test prep classes online for over 10 years now, and on Zoom for about 2 years. We know you might be teaching online now too, so we made this series to share some of our favorite things that we've learned. Hope you enjoy!
Hi, my name is Ryan Jacobs. I teach the GMAT and the SAT at Manhattan Prep, and I've been teaching live online classes for over 9 years. I've used lots of different teaching software in that time, but I currently teach my classes in Zoom. And when you talk about teaching online, I think it's easy to get caught up in talking about the software, the technology, and the features. But today I want to focus more on the actual practice of teaching and the teaching behaviors that help that practice translate well into an online environment. I think the most important thing to remember is that if you're a good teacher in person, you'll be a good teacher online. Throughout your own teaching career, I'm sure you've had lots of experience integrating tools and technology into your teaching, from simple tech like video projectors, graphing calculators, to more complicated stuff like smart boards, in-classroom computers, etc. And I think good teachers figure out the best ways to use all of these tools to help students learn. Zoom is really no different from that. Also, like any other tool, adjusting to Zoom takes some time. Especially if you've never used Zoom before, it's totally okay to keep things simple for your first few classes. The software does have a ton of very cool features. That doesn't mean you need to use them all your very first time. Just start with the basics and try maybe one new idea per session. You'll add to your toolbox over time. You will, by the way, need to be very focused on what you're doing. So in Zoom, I find myself often doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So opening windows, prepping the slides that I'm about to show my students, and monitoring the chat window. And I do all that in order to keep the class running really smoothly. Also, be prepared for Zoom to move a little bit slower than an in-person class. And this may seem like a drawback, by the way. I know my classes, for example, have a lot of material to cover. But I've also found it to have a positive side as well. Zoom really makes me consider which aspects of a lesson are most important and how I can use online tools to accomplish my teaching goals most efficiently. So to that end, here's one very important tip. I have learned to rely a lot on in-class diagnosis, which really helps me prioritize certain parts of my lesson over others. And the private chat feature, by the way, is a great means to that end in Zoom. You can ask a question that tests for understanding and ask every student to type the answer in private chat so that only you can see their response. Also, you can encourage students to use private chat to ask you questions just at any time that they may not feel comfortable asking in front of their classmates. So in these ways, you can gather information that allows you to adjust your lesson on the fly. So a lot of times when I'm teaching online, I'll use the chat feature to get student feedback about what they're thinking about a problem. So for instance, here I might say something like, hey, everybody type to me in private chat, what did you get as an answer for this question? Type in A, B, C, D, or E directly to me. And then based on that, I can react in real time. So for instance, here I'm noticing everybody picked either E or D. So I can just cover up all of the answer choices and we can have a discussion only about those two answers. So let's do that here. And now I'm going to ask the class to discuss amongst themselves, and I'm going to try and butt out as much as I can, because it's really important when you're teaching online to try and get students talking to each other rather than having the teacher interrupt every time. So I might ask something like, Whitney, can you start by telling us what answer you picked and why? And then let's just go around the room. Another really important online teaching consideration is your lesson organization. So when teaching online, you may have to be more intentional and structured with your activities. You may also find, by the way, that it takes more time to prep an online class, especially at first, and that's okay. So a couple examples of this. One is group work. I find that group activities often need to be really well prepared with very clear written instructions that students can view, and preferably that they can view independently. So for example, you can put them in a Google Doc that the students can reference. I also find that building culture can take more explicit effort than it does in person. So one thing I found especially important, by the way, is for a student to talk and then for another student to talk without me talking in between every single time. And the more this happens, the better. But it also won't happen unless you explicitly tell them something like, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to talk amongst yourselves about this particular thing. I also find that students can be a little reluctant to volunteer at first, so you may find you need to question them more directly. Preparing structured sets of questions and activities can also help with that. I think variety is another important consideration when you're teaching online. Dividing lessons into smaller chunks and moving back and forth between partner, small group, and full group work can really help. Also, eliciting responses in the chat, on mic, and on video at different points in the lesson really provides some variety. I know I've told you about some of the challenges you might face teaching in Zoom, but I gotta say there are some very clear advantages as well that are worth talking about. So for one, you can put students into small groups and breakout rooms in like 5 to 10 seconds without waiting for people to move around the classroom. And you can also bring students back together in Zoom very easily. Also, you can choose the groups so you don't get friends and cliques gossiping when they should be working. And another way you can use that is you can easily pair students who arrived at different answers to a question. So that way they're forced to explore their reasoning and they won't just agree right away. You'll find too that students who rarely share in the big teacher-led group are often much more willing to participate in small groups when they're with their peers. Another tool at your disposal, keep in mind students can write on the whiteboard really easily just like you can. And all the students can do it at once. And that's a really nice way of getting everyone involved. Hey, so we're here in Zoom, and I wanted to show you how students can actually use the whiteboard tools just as well as the teacher to draw a picture of things that are going on in class or take notes for themselves. So guys, we've got a rates problem here, and what I'd like to ask you to do is draw a picture of the situation. You'll need your annotation tools to do this, so you can go to View Options, Annotate to find those. And Whitney, can I ask you to get started drawing a picture of this situation? And as you go, you guys can chat amongst yourselves and see if you can create a whole labeled drawing of this situation.
I have Newtown and Old Town on opposite ends, and I knew that they were 62 miles apart. But then I wasn't entirely sure how to draw out the rest of it. So maybe somebody else can.
So car A starts at Newtown. And I guess car B goes the other way.
And by the way, you might have noticed one more thing that I just did. You can select to show the names of the annotators. So when Jeff was drawing just now, you'll notice that I could see his name appear. So I know who is drawing what on the whiteboard. One thing you can do is split the page into quadrants, assign one quadrant to each student, and have them all show their work simultaneously. You can ask them all at the same time to circle something, highlight something in a passage that they're reading. You can screenshot all of the board work from class to share with them later. With the right encouragement, students actually ask more questions in Zoom than they might in person. One cool thing is they can ask in chat without interrupting the teacher. So there's no more debating, is this important enough for me to raise my hand, have my teacher stop talking, and have everyone looking at me. You can also use Zoom to really easily record short little video tutorials that help guide them through assignments between classes. And this is a really nice way, by the way, of increasing homework compliance. And students actually tend to really appreciate it. So I hope I've given you some ideas and some inspiration. Remember, you're a good teacher already, and moving online isn't going to change that. But at the same time, think of online teaching as an opportunity. I think it's great to stop and ask yourself, what positive teaching behaviors do I already have, and how do I make sure those behaviors continue when I move my class online? Zoom is really just another tool, and I'm sure you'll discover lots of ways to use it to work for you. So good luck, and thanks for watching.
If you want to learn more, you can watch the other videos in our series, or check out the description for links to other resources about teaching online. You can also email us if you're looking for more direct assistance with online teaching, and that address is in the description too. Thanks for watching.